It's 2005, and Rockstar just asked the studio to create a Western world that would define the next generation of gaming. But they've never created anything at that scale, and with the engine that powered the entire GTA series being stripped away by a rival, the future of Rockstar Games was in question. If they accept this mission, they'd have to outrun the enormous shadow of the next GTA title, convince the masses that an empty desert world can be fun, and prove to Rockstar that they deserve a seat at their table. But this is how one man's creation ended up powering the biggest games in history, how a failure turned into a massive success, and how a group of devs redefined their legacy. This is the miraculous story of Rockstar San Diego.
My name's John Marston.
It never was about the money.
Angel Studios.
Breaking all the rules.
A lot of people said we were crazy.
Creating a living, breathing world.
It's got to be a passion.
This is not what I want anymore.
It might be too much.
Game of the year is...
To truly understand the scope of what this studio was going through, we have to go back to 1971, when Diego Anel from Colombia set foot in Chicago for the first time. His dream was to be a film director, but on his long journey in Chicago, where he attended college and pursued other film-related endeavors, he finds a new love: computer animation, which he calls the future of art. A decade passes, and in 1984, he makes the risky decision to take his family and move west to San Diego to start something he's always wanted to do. Since he has other relatives in California, and with San Diego being closer to Mexico, he had a temporary fix for his homesickness. And in January of that year, he starts his company, Angel Studios, run by one man with a dream of sharing his passion for computer animation with the world. It was a rough few years at the start, but by 1989, he has 6 employees, state-of-the-art computer equipment, and projects lined up that could take them to stardom. They produce VFX for The Lawnmower Man, they animate logos for HBO and ESPN, they do work for NASA, and even created animated cutscenes for games. Project by project, Angel Studios was building a reputation for pushing the boundaries of 3D computer graphics. But in the early 90s, they would face a decision that would determine the future of everyone at Angel Studios. And now you also have to make a decision. They say mastery takes 10,000 hours, and you could be creating, grinding ranked, or building something that matters to you, but nobody talks about what those hours actually cost. You're putting long sessions in the booth with your lower back tightening, your posture slowly degrading, and your flow constantly being interrupted, but not anymore. This is the C7 Max by FlexiSpot, and as I was creating this video in this chair, I was able to stay comfortable longer because their lumbar support actually covers more of your lower back than most chairs. And no matter how I wanted to rest my arms during a session, I could use the 5D armrest to change the angle or height or anything I needed in that moment. And the best part is that I can fully recline and still have my arms comfortably supported. Now, I am super impressed with the build quality, and you can't go wrong with a 10-year warranty and also a 30-day risk-free return policy. So if you're looking to master your craft, make sure you sit in something that can handle it, like the C7 Max or any of FlexiSpot's chairs. And for an even better deal, make sure you use our code in the description below. And thank you to FlexiSpot for not only supporting this channel, but sponsoring this video. See, in the early 90s, a company named Silicon Graphics was creating the machines that power the highest tier of VFX, like in Terminator 2 and Jurassic Park. Angel's job was to create tech demos to sell these machines in exchange for the actual machines. Now, Silicon Graphics just so happened to be partnered with Nintendo to design the chipset for the all-new Nintendo 64. And naturally, an executive at Nintendo notices the incredible 3D work that Angel has done for Silicon and asks Diego to help create games for the N64. Angel Studios accepts and would build their first game, a pair of Ken Griffey Jr. baseball titles for the N64, which ran on Angel's own game engine called Arts, built by Brad Hunt, who was the technical mind behind every tool Angel Studios had ever built. Arts was so good that it would also go on to power Midtown Madness for Microsoft, which was one of the first truly open-world racing games ever made. But Angel Studios needed something better to tackle bigger projects, so Hunt evolves Arts into the Angel Game Engine, or AGE. And Age was built to stream massive open worlds without loading screens, and it powered Midtown Madness's sequel for Microsoft, then Midnight Club and Smuggler's Run for Rockstar, all running on the engine built by scratch by Brad Hunt and his team. By the year 2000, Angel Studios was one of the most sought-after teams in gaming. which was solidified when they took Capcom's Resident Evil 2 for PlayStation, which was over a gigabyte, and compressed it to 64 megabytes so it would work on the N64. Capcom was so impressed that they approached Diego with a pitch for an original game, a third-person shooter with a Western theme. While Diego and his team began development on Capcom's pitch, it was clear that whoever worked with Angel Studios would always be at the top of video game development. And naturally, the biggest names in the industry wanted them to themselves. So Microsoft throws an offer to buy the studio, Activision comes calling, then Rockstar Games comes calling. But Rockstar has an edge the others don't. Sam Houser, the co-founder of Rockstar, had been courting Diego for years, and the two had become friends over a shared love of tequila. Diego agreed to an offer from Rockstar that he couldn't refuse, and in November 2002, Take-Two Interactive, the parent company of Rockstar, acquires Angel Studios for $41 million and rebrands it to Rockstar San Diego. But for Diego and his now 125-person team, there was no time to celebrate, because their hardest challenge hadn't even started yet.
I wanted to make something really special.
The game has been outlawed in Australia.
The company was in trouble.
The challenge was to exceed the high expectations.
We need our own engine.
There was a lot of pressure and
I don't think it worked.
Things will be different.
It's late 2002, and Angel Studios is now Rockstar San Diego. The headcount immediately jumps from 125 to 230, and everyone feels the weight and expectations set by Rockstar. The first real test comes fast. The Western game Capcom pitched a few years ago, now called Red Dead Revolver, had been in development for years, but it was a mess. Cultural clashes paired with key leaders leaving Capcom causes them to pull the plug entirely. Capcom stopped funding Revolver in July of 2003 and formally cancelled a month later. But Dan Houser, the co-founder of Rockstar, sees something worth saving. Capcom agrees to hand Rockstar the rights to Red Dead Revolver, and Diego and his team would finish the rest of the game in about 9 months, with Red Dead Revolver releasing in May of 2004. But the reception is a gut check. Mixed reviews, around 900,000 copies sold, and the verdict from critics saying it doesn't feel like a Rockstar game. But the test kept coming. To prove San Diego was worth the $41 million acquisition, Rockstar gave Diego and his team the challenge of building an open-world spy thriller, which would be called Agent. This project wasn't born out of creative vision, and the universe would act accordingly. Agent began with a full-size team with no time for a prototype, which caused immediate crunch. 4 artists sent to Egypt to capture reference photos were detained by Egyptian police, which stalled development and shook the team. And to top it all off, the lead producer quits a year into the project, which would cause around 11 lead devs to quit as well. Agent was officially shelved. But this was just the beginning. The next 3 challenges would determine the fate of not only Diego and his team, but the entirety of Rockstar Games. The first challenge starts in 2004 when EA acquires Criterion, which was the company behind Renderware, the engine that powers GTA 3, Vice City, and San Andreas. Just like that, the foundation of future GTA titles were gone, so Rockstar asked Diego and his team to take the Angel game engine that Brad Hunt built and turn it into something that could power the future of all Rockstar games. If they failed, the biggest publisher in gaming wouldn't have a future on next-gen consoles. In addition, Rockstar reveals its ambitious plan for the next generation. They wanted 2 pillars to define the PS3 and 360 era. Rockstar North would handle Grand Theft Auto 4, which was the next installment in the series, and Rockstar San Diego was asked to deliver the other pillar to contrast GTA 4. A brand new open-world Western game that could match up with the legendary GTA series. If they failed, the acquisition would go down as one of the worst in history, and the legendary reputation of Diego and his team would dissolve. And the final challenge, in May of 2005, Diego Angel, the man who started all of this, decides to not renew his contract and return to Colombia because he was homesick. Diego held this team together through every impossible challenge, and now the team has to figure out who they are without him. But even against impossible odds, Rockstar San Diego would surface a group of geniuses that were ready to try and change the gaming world forever.
With the power of PlayStation 3,
we can push the limits.
Right, it was amazing.
The goal was to complement the visually stunning game world.
They're more than a one-trick pony.
For the true sound of the West.
16-hour overtime.
It was a big risk.
This is what we live for.
The first order of business was the engine everything would be built on. See, after the acquisition back in 2002, Brad Hunt, who built the Angel game engine, left. So in 2004, Rockstar San Diego formed a dedicated team called the Rage Technology Group, whose mission was to take the Angel game engine and upgrade it to the Rockstar Advanced Game Engine, or Rage. See, the Angel game engine was built completely in-house, but for Rage, the team took a different approach. They combined their own foundation with tools built outside Rockstar's walls to create something no single studio could build alone. The first edition was Euphoria, built by a company called Natural Motion. See, in older games, when a character got hit, they played the same animation every time. Euphoria replaced that with real-time physics, so every fall, hit, and stumble was unique. The second was Bullet, an open-source physics engine that handled how every object in the world interacted with other objects, how things fall, shatter, collide, and react to force. But a combo of tools and a potential groundbreaking engine means nothing until you prove it works, publicly. So in 2005, Sam Houser greenlit the strangest game Rockstar has ever made, a table tennis game. The idea was to strip everything down and pour the entire power of next-gen hardware into a single focused activity to prove that Rage actually worked. It wasn't a blockbuster hit, but it was never supposed to be. It was a proof of concept, and Rage was working. Now, after the Rage group inside Rockstar San Diego handed the engine over to the GTA 4 crew, it was time for them to try and build a world that could match up. Full development on Red Dead Redemption officially starts in 2006 with 180 people at Rockstar San Diego and over 1,000 across Rockstar studios worldwide. Leading the charge is a man named Christian Cantamessa, who worked on GTA 3 and San Andreas as a designer and then transferred to Rockstar San Diego after the acquisition. This time, he'd be the bridge between the Houser's vision and San Diego's execution. Alongside him, technical director Ted Carson and art directors Josh Bass and Darren Bader, who were all carried over from Red Dead Revolver. This entire team had a single mission: build a game that was to the countryside as Grand Theft Auto was to the city. But that mission came with a problem no one had solved before. See, GTA's open world was built for density with buildings on every block, heavy traffic, and pedestrians. The Old West in the 1900s has none of that. So Carson's first job was to upgrade Rage to handle massive draw distances with nothing to hide behind. Every little detail had to render convincingly or the illusion falls apart, and we still to this day don't know how he did it because of the secrecy around the true power of Rage. But the bigger problem wasn't what you could see, it was what you could do. The team initially tried to use GTA 4's open world formula that Rockstar North was developing, which was to fill the map with a variety of missions and activities. But the emptiness of the Western world made that approach feel wrong, so they went a different direction entirely. They built a living ecosystem with over 40 species of animals, each with their own behavioral rules, like predators hunting prey, herds moving together, with encounters never being scripted. Then they layered in dynamic ambient events, like a woman being attacked on the road, a sheriff chasing a prisoner, a bear charging out of the tree line, and none of it was triggered by the player, it just happened. Things were moving smoothly, but with no foresight into what was about to hit, the team kept pushing forward. After Ted Carson made an empty world functional, it was Darren Bader's job to make it beautiful. Bader worked directly with tech artists and programmers to build custom lighting tools to power the sunsets, the dust storms, and the way light hit the desert at golden hour. But it was Josh Bass who would bring the missing piece to this Western dream: the horses. See, in every open world game before this, your vehicle is a rigid box with 4 wheels, but horses are living, breathing animals with different walks, trots, and gallops. They need to react to terrain, threats, and the rider. So the team studied the Mustang, a feral horse historically connected to the Old West, and Bass and his team would hire a Hollywood stunt horse named Blanco to mocap, with the stunt rider being none other than Brendan Wayne, the grandson of John Wayne, one of the most iconic cowboys in film history. See, Bass not only wanted realistic animations, but he wanted different breeds, like GTA had different makes and models of cars. So to show rarity and speed, some horses were malnourished and weak with low stamina, others were muscular stallions with greater endurance, all handled by using the facial animation tech that showed realistic detail on human skin, but instead it would be used for the horse's muzzle, hindquarters, shoulders, and ribcage, which was never done before in a game. And while Bass was improving the horses, Cantamessa and Dan Houser were shaping the soul of the game. Together with writer Michael Unsworth, they spent 2 years writing a 1,500-page script with around 450 characters and a creative decision that would define everything. See, most Western fiction is set between 1840 and 1880, the height of cowboys and outlaws, but instead, they went with 1911. Not the myth of the West, but the death of it. This meant horses and stagecoaches could exist alongside trains and explosives. And with the old world dying and the new one arriving, it would make for a much more interesting world the player could experience. But their story was missing its key piece, its star. See, there was a man named Rob Whiteoff living in LA, and for the last decade, he'd had no success as an actor. He had been bartending and picking up small parts in commercials just to get by. But one day, Rob gets a last-minute call from his agent for an immediate audition across town for an untitled video game project. Rob auditions thinking nothing would come of it, but a few days later, he gets the call that would change his life. Rob is officially cast as John Marston. But in April of 2008, Grand Theft Auto 4 shipped, and it would become the biggest entertainment launch in history, breaking multiple Guinness World Records, selling 6 million copies in 1 week, and bringing in $500 million with a 98 on Metacritic. But Rockstar wasn't done. See, after GTA 4 dominated 2008, at the start of 2009, they'd announced that Red Dead Redemption would launch by the end of that year. But Rockstar San Diego wasn't done building, and what that deadline would do to the people inside is something nobody expected.
The crunch kicked in at Rockstar San Diego.
They have a very aggressive management style.
So everyone's rushing to meet that release date.
It's really, really hurting families.
On February 3rd, 2009, Rockstar officially announces Red Dead Redemption to the world with the release window of late 2009, which would force the studio into crunch mode with mandatory 12-hour days and 6-day weeks. By May of 2009, the game is delayed, with no specific date, just 2010, and as the months drag on, everything starts crumbling. In October of 2009, Sam Houser, the co-founder of Rockstar, sent a string of emails to Leslie Benzies, the head of Rockstar North. Houser said the ups and downs on the game were extreme, that he needed help, that he was freaking out, said he had problems with the mechanics across the entire game. Sam begged Benzies to help. Now, Benzies had no assigned role on Red Dead, but Sam Houser's desperate emails pulled him in. Benzies helped take the game's messy design and shape it into something cohesive, bringing it to a presentable state for partners like Sony and Microsoft, and essentially acting as quality control. In November of 2009, Rockstar confirmed a new release date, April 27th, 2010. For a brief moment, it seemed like things had stabilized. But at the start of 2010, the cost of everything Rockstar San Diego had endured went public. An open letter appeared online, written by the wives of Rockstar San Diego's employees under the name Rockstar Spouse. It described a studio where people had been pushed past their limits for nearly a year, where the crunch never stopped, where benefits had been stripped, promises had been broken, and the people building one of the most anticipated games in the world were breaking down. The letter threatened legal action if conditions didn't change, and that opened the floodgates. In the days that followed, former and current employees started coming forward, some anonymously, some publicly, and the picture they painted was devastating. Former employees described the project as an organic disaster of the most epic proportions. One source said the game had been a complete disaster for most of 2009, with little direction and a dev team that didn't know what kind of product they were trying to make. And on January 21st, Rockstar responded. They called it the opinions of a few anonymous posters on message boards. They said they were saddened if any former members didn't find their time enjoyable or creatively fulfilling. But even with this mess, the game still wasn't done. Rockstar San Diego was still pushing, shedding blood, sweat, and tears every day in the name of art. But in March of 2010, just weeks before the April ship date, Rockstar announced another delay. Red Dead Redemption was pushed to May 18th. 3 public delays, a gutted studio, families publicly begging for relief, and the man at the top calling the project a nightmare. A source inside Rockstar also revealed that the game needed 5 million copies at full price just to recoup what it cost to make, and that Rockstar wasn't expecting to make their money back since this was supposed to test if Rockstar San Diego could make a great game. Years of people's lives, their health, their families, all of it on the line to prove something that nobody on the outside was even sure they wanted proven. And as May approached, the only question left was whether any of it was worth it.
Rockstar set out to capture the essence of the West.
That game's looking crazy.
It looks phenomenal in motion.
Happiness is not a destination. You have to enjoy the journey.
And I think we made something great.
This is Red Dead Redemption.
May 18th, 2010. Red Dead Redemption launches, and the reviews start coming in. A 95 on Metacritic, and perfect scores from over 20 publications. Critics called Ted Carson's open world one of the most impressive ever built. Darren Bader's sunsets, dust storms, and the way light hit the desert at golden hour was called one of the most visually striking atmospheres in gaming. Josh Bass's horses stunned every rider. Bill Elm and Woody Jackson's music won Best Original Score and Best Song in a Game at the Spike Awards. And Rob Whiteoff, the bartender from LA, won Outstanding Character Performance for his portrayal of John Marston. Christian Cantamessa, who spent 5 years shaping the story, the design, and the soul of this game, won Outstanding Achievement in Game Direction. Then the numbers hit. 5 million copies sold in the first 3 weeks. The game Rockstar didn't expect to be profitable was shattering expectations. Rockstar San Diego, the support studio, the engine builders, the team that was never supposed to be the headliner, had made one of the greatest games ever created. But by February of 2011, the studio headcount had dropped to 128. And from that point forward, Rockstar San Diego would never lead a project of that scale again. The studio was folded into the collective Rockstar Studios model, contributing to future titles as a support team. The people that made Red Dead Redemption would be dissolved into the visual of a letter, but what they take to the grave is that they left a mark on this world, truly understanding the cost of art, while leaving a legacy that will most likely never be topped. Now only one question remains: what's your legacy?
What you've been waiting to see. There's moments where you gotta take it or leave, and I'm taking everything. Some call it greed, but I call it living out what you believe. We get it, you've been in the game for a minute, but it's time to kick it. We know that you finished. The future is coming. Let's stick to the mission and aim for the target with deadly precision.
You moron, Morgan. You moron. Not again.